What's going on, Pizza Fam? Listen, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Thrive POS. They've recently partnered with the podcast and they bring an exclusive offer for our listeners. Listen, Thrive POS is not just a POS system. It was built for operators just like us. It's fast, it's reliable, and most importantly, it helps us focus on what matters: our pizza, our people, and our profits. Check out the exclusive offer from Thrive POS at thrivepos.com/Pizza King, or just click the link in the description. Now let's get into the episode. What's going on, Pizza Fam? Welcome back to the Pizza King podcast. Today is not Friday, it's Thursday, which is the first little change we're going to talk about today, which is we're moving takeout tips to Thursday instead of Friday to give everybody that extra day to take things in, get things implemented, and it helps, free up a little bit of time for me because with running a shop now, my Fridays are starting to get a little bit more hectic. This is week 4 of the Valrico store takeover. This week is GM planning and routines week. And up to this point, we really just been focused on stabilizing the operation, working on staffing, working on hours, setting those standards to get the floor underneath the business, right? Week 4 is where leadership habits really start to matter. This is where really most turnarounds either gain traction or they start to drift or go back to their old habits. Today is going to be an intentionally longer episode. I really want to share my screen and walk through, my weekly P&L. It's not a dashboard. It's not a summary. This is the actual tool that I use every week in my meeting with our GM, Andy. I want to really answer that question that everybody's thinking about, but nobody is, really asking out loud. And that's, are we making money yet? So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you my screen. We'll talk about it honestly. There's no spin on it, no fluff, no highlight reel. I will just explain, what we're doing and how we're doing financially. I will also explain why I recommend manually tracking most if not all of your key metrics before you rely on a high level report or a dashboard, and how that process really builds better GMs, not just, cleaner spreadsheets. So if you're an owner or an operator who wants more control, not more stress, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Man, that intro was a mouthful. But yeah, like we said in the intro, this is week 4. Week 1 we did food safety. Week 2 was all about cash management and setting those standards there. Week 3 we focused on training and bench. I tried to record an episode for week 3. I was in the shop. It was just not great quality, so I didn't put it out. Maybe we'll find a way to do that. But week 3 was all about training and bench, which, with a small crew like we have, with only myself plus 5 others, there's not a whole lot of depth there as far as bench goes. But the training is good because we have already in place our 1-to-1 structure, which, if you follow me or if you've been in one of my live classes or something like that, I'm all about pushing that 1-2-1 framework. 1 number 1 leader, 2 junior leaders, and 1 person in development. So we have Andy, who's our GM, number 1 leader. We have 2 shift managers, Nick and Eric, and we also have 2 other team members, Jess and Jevin, who are technically in development, but realistically everybody on the team is in development because of the process that we're going through. So there wasn't a whole lot of update in regards to that. Andy and I did have some conversations on, kind of where everybody is in their own process and what we'll do. We have not sat down and presented development plans to the team yet. So more to come there, just a little bit of a shift. This week was really has been about planning and routines for myself and for Andy as the leaders in this business. And the big part of that is setting our cadence for weekly meetings and having that financial review. And I know everybody's been wondering, like, man, are you going to make some money, or is this going to, is it going to bury you, or are you going to be okay? And the answer is, yeah, absolutely. We're going to be great. The store is really close to break even now and has a lot of upside to it. We haven't done any marketing. We haven't put out anything other than just, emails and text messages to our loyalty members. So we haven't really aggressively tried to grow sales at all, and we're already really close to where we need to be to break even. And I'll just pull up the screen and show you what my P&L looks like, because it is we're in a good spot. All right, so let's dig into it. So for context, first 3 weeks we talked about it. First 3 weeks were really all about stabilizing, staffing, hours. We addressed the staffing need. We only really had one major gap in the staff going into it, and that was having somebody up front to handle the transactions, to handle the phone. So we ended up bringing Jess in. We hired her first week. She's working out fantastic. We went into addressing the hours of ops. This is actually our last week. This Monday was our last Monday. So we address hours to really create it. Well, and I'll tell you, so we're changing the hours starting February 1st. So in two days. But the idea behind it was, one, we don't really do shit on Mondays. Literally, it's costing us money to be open on a Monday. And then I had to think, like, if I had to work every hour in here by myself, what could I realistically do? And that's exactly, pretty much how we came up with the schedule. And obviously there's some data behind it. The store's been open for a couple of years, so there's plenty of data around day part sales, hourly sales. But we settled on 11 to 8 Tuesday through Sunday, closed on Mondays. So a 6-day schedule, which isn't crazy. So we addressed the hours, and then we began really just setting standards around, first was cleanliness and food safety, and then moving into, service, guest service, and decorum, and how we treat each other, how we treat the guests, just how we act and keep busy when we're in the shop. And we'll get more into, daily and weekly routines for the team as we get further along in the process. But first, we shore up management first, and that's what this week is really all about: is preparing Andy and the other managers for, really, really accelerating this turnaround and accelerating the growth of this business, really building habits that matter for these guys. Because, at the end of the day, pep talks don't fix margins, right? I can give all the motivational speeches I want to give. I can have all the pep talks. I can be as encouraging as ever, but that's not going to fix any of the real problems in the restaurant. So we need to create routines that promote and produce predictability in the business. Predictability makes the numbers easier to manage. You know what I mean? And the GM should own the week before the week even starts. And that's the goal here, is to have him in a place where we know what to expect. We know how to plan and adjust for all of the different, situations and scenarios, whether it be staffing, whether it be sales volume, whether it be large orders, things like that. So we really wanted to start to set up those processes and those routines and that system for him. The first big move, or the first big domino in that, is the weekly general managers meeting. So we decided on Tuesday mornings, but here's my advice for it: pick the same day every week. We have an agenda that is pretty much the same unless something comes up. We have our agenda. We have the same P&L format. I'm a big fan of the weekly P&L, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But when you have this conversation and you have this set up, it starts to remove emotion from it, and it becomes more about the business, right? So that's exactly why we do it. And most of the conversation is around the weekly P&L, because that's a clear view of how we're performing financially. But then we talk through staffing, we talk through people. We always lead with people. So talk through people, talk through, what we're doing with the staff and how we're handling the schedule. Then we talk about our financial performance, and then we'll talk about what we want to accomplish for the week. So, and it's not a one-way conversation. This is a two-way street. So what does he see? How does he feel? And how do we adjust? And then we work through those things together. I love the weekly P&L, and that's really what I wanted to talk about today, because I want to answer that question on whether or not we're making money. And look, the answer is not yet, but we're really close. I like the weekly P&L, and I really like doing it manually because it builds habits, right? So having a weekly P&L, this is not like hiring an accountant, you know what I mean, to run your books at the end of the month. This is not accounting. This is a management tool. This is an operations tool. The goal is to have visibility, not perfection, right? We want to be able to see everything that's happening on the back end. And then we want fast feedback, and this gives us the fastest feedback on how we're performing. So let me just share what it looks like. And I apologize for anybody that's listening to this, because you won't be able to see my screen. All right, so I'll share that. Listen, go to the YouTube channel and take a look at this one. So this is my weekly P&L sheet. If I can get it to the point where you can see, all right, it has a setup tab where we put in, obviously weeks per month as far as allocation, what our payroll taxes look like, third party commissions, royalties, marketing co-ops, all these different costs. Then we have our fixed cost tab, which is where we drop in rent, rent, utilities, insurance, accounting, even the debt service is all there. So we understand that weekly, our total fixed cost weekly $1,536.98. Um, so going back to the first week, and we have 3 weeks of data here. Week one, we did total revenue $7,202, and we lost $680, 9.4%. And you go, man, that's that's a lot of money to lose in a week, and it is a lot of money to lose in a week, and you can't run very many weeks like that unless you start to make some adjustments. But if you don't see it and you don't understand it, then you don't know how to fix it. And what we look at mainly is we start to just look at our scoreboard, which is total sales, what our prime cost, which is food, food and labor, cost of goods sold and labor, net operating income, NOI. We look at our NOI percentage, and if we had a fluctuation in fixed costs. One of the driving factors, the most important, is really going to be how we manage prime costs. Big two, food and labor. Our goal is 60 to 65% here. So we know that running a 71.3 is not going to get us to profitability. Now, there are some caveats here, because there are some costs that are built into this that aren't costs that we actually have at the moment, but we're planning for them. So we need to see the real picture. So week one, we lost $680. Did $7,202 in sales. We lost $680. Week two, we did $7,514. Prime costs went up to 73.9. We lost $954. Prime costs did go up. Our sales went up, but it was really more third party sales. And that was one of the things that I was really looking at. Like, is this helping us or hurting us? We saw an increase in third party sales because we ran a co-branded or co-funded promo, but it didn't help us get to more profit. So we needed to address that. Last week we did less in sales. Actually, we did $7,422 in sales. We dropped our prime cost down to 70.9%, and we only lost $557. We went down in third party sales, but we increased in first party sales, and a lot of that came through online. And I have a different sheet that I track, daily, and I do this every single morning, where I go in and I look at how we performed on third party, how we performed on, all the platforms, Uber, DoorDash, how we performed first party, how many online orders did we get? Did we take, and we're only delivering on the weekend, so I'm not really tracking delivery. But my goal every day is for our first party online platform to beat the third party platforms, each one of them every day. That is our path to profitability. Now I want to go and show you something, because this is a little bit deceiving, because our costs aren't necessarily as high as they look. We are not paying royalties right now. We are not paying a co-op right now. And we are not paying debt service right now. We have deferred payments on those things to build us runway so that we can quickly build ourselves up to profitability. So if you go back and look, in actuality, week one, we lost $1. Week two, we lost $275. Not as bad as it looked. And then last week, we actually made $121. Now, understanding that that's close, getting us to break even, that's fine. But in, in a few months, we have bigger expenses to cover. So we need to make sure that we're doing the sales. Our goal is to increase sales. Initially our first tier goals is to increase first party sales by $2,000 a week. That's going to happen through, increasing the frequency of our loyalty promotions and our loyalty communications, getting our existing customers to come back, one or two more times, and come back a little bit faster than they come back. We're not in the mode where we're trying to really go after new business. All of our efforts when it comes to going after new business is going for catering orders, school orders. We partner with the softball team to do food at their concession stands. That's going to be 50 to 75 pizzas every Saturday morning. We're working with one of the private schools, and there's a lot of private schools in our area. We're working with one of the private schools to do a lunch program 3 days a week with personal pizzas, personal calzones, and maybe some pasta dish. So we have opportunities with channels like that. So we're really looking to do that. But this is where we start, and this is where we start to have those conversations by digging into this P&L every single week. I love to do it weekly, and I'll stop my screen share here. I love to do it weekly because it really keeps your finger on the pulse when it comes to being a manager. It's not like a dashboard, and I don't have anything against dashboards, right? Dashboards are very convenient, but convenience can't hide problems. You know what I mean? When you're taking over a store and a store's been struggling, you need a little bit of friction, not shortcuts. You need to know what's broken and where you need to fix it. I like touching the numbers every day and every week because I can notice errors a lot faster. A dashboard will just tell you what you want to see. You know what I mean? I can see errors faster. I can ask better questions. I can learn what actually drives the results by manually doing this. You know what I mean? Pulling sales by channel manually, shows me how the mix is changing week to week. I saw where Uber sales climbed and DoorDash took a step back. Or if we run a promo here, what's that going to do for the daily sales? You know what I mean? Writing down and looking through, the schedule and seeing those labor dollars and how they compare really stops me from overscheduling, and really stops Andy from overscheduling. You know what I mean? Tracking usage exposes, drifts and portions. So if we're counting our inventory and we're tracking our cheese usage, it really helps us see it faster. And that's the goal here, is to see and react much quicker. You know what I mean? So dashboards are great. They summarize, but manual work teaches you what's really going on. So if you can't, and this is what I tell a manager, a new manager, or somebody that I'm working with, if you can't explain the number, you shouldn't automate it. You know what I mean? Dashboards fail young managers because they don't really understand what they do. They see green and they see red without context. They react instead of thinking. They don't know what that means or what's driving that number. They just trust reports. They trust reports that they don't necessarily understand, and that creates false confidence. Which, when it comes to, and then you move on to a better situation or a busier store or a different organization, and you don't know what you're doing because all you did was trust the dashboard. I didn't do you any justice if you came from me. So I want to teach what the numbers mean and what we're doing. It's great to look at a sales per labor hour number because it is very helpful. But if you don't know what's feeding that number, it doesn't mean anything to you. So for our managers, we're emphasizing on knowing where the numbers are coming from. And I'm only starting with the GM now, and then we'll work through doing that probably monthly with the shift managers. But for now, weekly review with the GM. And he can trust those numbers because he knows that we touch them every single day. He can defend his numbers in a meeting because he knows that this data is from a source that I trust. You know what I mean? That's what our development is about, is really driving the business and managing the business, not just hanging on for dear life. So, then after the habits are built, the definitions are clear, the accountability really exists, then you start to automate those things and you put it into a dashboard. So for me, I recommend, this is my tip today. I recommend spending 8 to 12 weeks manually tracking the numbers that are important to you, the metrics that mean the most to your business, and seeing what adjustments you can make and seeing how that differs from what the dashboard is telling you. You know what I mean? Let's get these managers prepared for taking it to the next level. Let's get you out of the trenches every single day so that you can really go build these relationships in the community and grow your business. That's what we're trying to do. So that's our takeout tip for today. Happy Thursday. I appreciate you guys. If you want a copy of my weekly P&L, email me info@tyrellreed.com. I'll send that over to you. It's just an Excel sheet. Very simple. very, very old school. Compare it to your dashboard and see how you're really doing. But that's all we got today. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. Go check out the Tory T's episode we dropped earlier this week. Very good conversation. Listen, we're doing some great things behind the scenes. We got Expo coming up. We got New York Restaurant Show coming up. If you want to see me speak, come see me at the Javits Center in New York. I think it's March 7th. I'll drop it on the website and put it in the notes. But come see me there. We'll be speaking and obviously enjoying some pizza around New York City. We'll be in Vegas at the Pizza Expo later in March. Make sure we all meet up there and do something. I'll be on the show floor recording some podcasts. We just dropped Lead the Shift, the 21-day workbook. I'll drop links for that. That's a free workbook to help turn a manager around in 21 days. It has daily prompts, daily accountabilities, teaches small habits every single day, much like our first leadership development book. But this one is geared more towards restaurant operations and specifically pizza operations. So go take a look at that. It's a free download. We are taking applications for our March cohort for Leadership Accelerator. I got 12 open spots to work with a leader. If you really want to if you see what we're doing, you see what we do. We reset stores, we build habits, food safety, cash management, all the way down to how we implement recognition programs and speed and excellence and back of house optimization. You want to work with me? We do a 6-week Leadership Accelerator program. I am taking applications now. We have 12 spots available. Cohort starts March 1st. For more information, just reach out to me by email. I'll send you a website that you can go and get a little bit more info. Or if you get the free workbook, it'll also lead you down that same path. So come work with us. I'll be happy to talk with you. Happy to help you in your business. But until next week, y'all have a good one. Peace out. If you've gotten any value out of this episode or any of our other episodes, I need you to do me a favor. Go leave us a review. Every review on Apple, every 5-star rating on Spotify helps this show find more operators just like you and helps them get that same value that you're taking away from this episode. And as a thank you, anytime somebody leaves a review, sends me a screenshot, just DM me a screenshot of your review. I'm going to send you a free gift, something awesome, something cool. I'll send you a gift, whoever leaves a review. That's the challenge. Go leave a review, DM me a screenshot of it, and then I'll get you something. I got you something special from your boy. Now let's get back into the episode. Peace.